Well, I called that one, right? Did a video, 3 hours before the game started. Even before the game started, I told you guys he was going to go for 60 points, I should have said barring the game being a blowout. I saw, well, first of all, the guys scored 30 points in at least 30 points in the last 20 games. Now it's 21 games. All right. In the last 4 games, he was averaging 50 points. Now that's the last 5 games. He's averaging 52.2 points per game. And, there was a recent statement that he wants to be compared with he wants his name to be up there when everything is said and done with the Wilts and the Kobe's and the Jordans. And we all know when people think of those 3 guys, even though they should think of championship caliber players who were gifted on both ends of the court, people think of Wilt 100, Kobe 81, Jordan 63 at the Garden, 10 scoring titles. People think of scoring. Scoring is sexy. All right, it's like the home run in baseball, even though baseball is so much more than that. And when I saw that his opponent was the Knicks, 10-35 Knicks, one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA, a team that doesn't guard the outside shot very well at all, generally, even though James Harden didn't shoot well from beyond the arc tonight, because if he did, he probably would have scored at least 70 tonight instead of just 61. But I knew it. I could just tell that was going to happen. And he had 36 points at halftime, and he finished with 61. Getting on a fast, what was a breakaway dunk on a pass from Eric Gordon. And with that dunk to ice the game that they nearly blew against a horrible Knicks team, that ties Kobe Bryant's record from all the way back in February of 2009. I can't believe that game was nearly 10 years ago. It was nearly 10 years ago. And the Knicks were pretty bad then. They weren't as atrocious as they are now. I think they were like a little bit below 500. I just looked up the records. The Lakers were great. That's the year that they eventually won the NBA championship that year. I think that might have been the year they won 65 ball games. I think. I know they played the Magic in the NBA Finals that year. But Kobe in that game shot 19 of 31 from the floor, 3 of 6 from beyond the arc, and I think he shot a perfect 20 of 20 from the foul line to get 61 points. I do recall that the last 16 of Kobe's 61 points, something like that, he scored in garbage time, which kind of pissed me off because I could tell he was obviously going for trying to break Mike's mark, as opposed to Jordan's game in March of 28, 1995. The Knicks were actually better than the Bulls that year. The Knicks were just coming off of an NBA Finals appearance the year before, a finals that I think that they lost more than Houston won. I know Red Pill Saver doesn't agree with that, but the numbers kind of suggest when you have John Starks only shooting 37% from the floor that series, most of the damage done by him having the worst game of his career in Game 7. And then you have Patrick Ewing, the guy who really, I think, should be shared the lion's share of blame for them losing that series, only shooting 36% from the floor. Of course, some of that was because of the great defense of the great Akeem Olajuwon, but some of that was from him choking. But anyway, in that game, Jordan shot 21 of 37 from the floor, 3 of 4 from three-point range, and 10 of 11 from beyond the arc. Actually, remember serving correctly, Jordan had like a little bit of a cold spell in the fourth quarter, because if it wasn't for that cold spell, Michael probably would have finished with like 65 points or something like that. And it was a close competitive game. It came down to, I think it was a pass to Bill Winnington from Jordan off of a double team for the game-winning bucket. I think the final score was like 113, 111 or something like that. But James Harden tonight was 5 of 20 from three-point range, 22 of 25 from the free throw line, and 17 of 38 from the field. And, I mean, that's just James Harden, man. I mean, I don't like the field goal percentage. I get the reason why he shoots like that. If you take away three-pointers, he would be from 2-point range. What is that? 12 of 18, which is actually great. I wish this guy would stop shooting so many threes. He's a good three-point shooter, but the only guy I think should take that many threes is Curry. Curry just shoots such a high percentage. And usually if Curry's taking that many, he's really hot. Curry's the only guy I think that really should be shooting that many. Maybe Clay when he's on. And I'm going to make a video about Clay too because he's turned that whole shit around. The slump is over. He's actually been the Warriors' best shooter and best scorer, perhaps. Or at least best shooter in the month of January. But James Harden, he's a volume scorer. You know, he's sort of like, percentage-wise, he's sort of similar to Elgin Baylor. Elgin Baylor was a high-scoring forward from the 1960s, late 1950s into the mid-1960s was his prime years. But, you know, Baylor was probably the league's most prolific scorer from 1958 to 1959, that 1 year, before he was supplanted by Wilt Chamberlain. But Baylor was generally an inefficient scorer at times. He only shot 43% from the floor for his career. Even in his prime, he was more like 45%, which is okay, I guess. But when you have a guy like Jerry West shooting 48% for his career and Oscar Robertson shooting 48% from the field, and they don't have the athletic gifts that you have, you know, that just tells you that Baylor, as athletically gifted as he was for his time, and you know, he was more of a slasher earlier on in his career. He didn't have the greatest jump shot in the world. It was good, but you know, it wasn't the best. But anyway, I'm getting way off topic. Let me talk about James Harden. As of tonight's performance, James Harden is now averaging 36.3 points per game for the season. And James Harden now has the highest seasonal scoring average for any NBA player since Michael Jordan in the 86-87 season. And I think that Red Pill Saber was correct when he left a comment on one of my videos last week saying that he thinks that Harden is going for that mark. I think he is. I think he's trying to go for something. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he can be able to sustain it. But then again, you got to wonder, with the way that the NBA game is played, is he really expending as much energy as some of the older guys did? When I say older guys, of course, I mean the older eras. You know, Wilt Chamberlain was a superhuman individual when it came to resources, his physical resources. Michael Jordan, in his prime, was damn near superhuman. Kobe Bryant was great, but when he went off offensively, oftentimes he did not give the same effort on defense because it just wouldn't have worked for him. He didn't have those same reservoirs of energy that the other two guys had. But James Harden isn't expected to play great defense. He gets steals, but I don't know if the Rockets can sustain this, man. If James Harden can sustain this, this isn't going to be winning basketball. It might be entertaining to watch if you're a James Harden fan to see him individually get these numbers, but this isn't going to translate into the playoffs. And of course, when Chris Paul comes back and when Clint Capella comes back, James Harden's not going to continue to take 35 to 40 shots per night. So I guess right now, while he has the green light from Coach D'Antoni and the organization, he's going to be putting up these sensational individual numbers. But this has to stop. You know, a one-man show isn't going to translate into winning basketball. When Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50.4 points per game during that season, he didn't win the MVP. The MVP went to Bill Russell. When Michael Jordan averaged 37.1 points per game during that NBA season, the MVP went to Magic Johnson. When Kobe Bryant averaged 35.4 points per game during 2005-2006 season, now you can make the argument that he should have won the MVP, but the MVP, of course, went to Steve Nash. You know, and I could go on and on and on about scoring. Bernard King averaged nearly 33 points per game in the 84-85 season for the New York Knicks. The MVP, of course, went to Larry Bird. So, you know, George Gervin won, 4 scoring titles, 3 consecutive. Won the scoring title in 78, 79, 80, and then again in 82. Of course, George Gervin would never be considered an MVP. Most people would never consider him in the same category as a Magic Johnson or Larry Bird or Julius Erving. That's no knock on Gervin. So basically what I'm saying is that it's entertaining to watch this stuff, but this doesn't translate well into the playoffs. The Rockets are going to have to get Chris Paul back and Chris Paul healthy and Chris Paul playing at least 80% of what he was before this year, because he hasn't looked himself. You get Clint Capella back into this situation and playing at the high level he was playing before he was injured. And James Harden's going to have to dial back his game and have, you know, he has to dial back his game and I think work on helping other people get involved, and the Rockets will be a better team, in my opinion. But tell me what you guys think, man.